Hi everybody, this is Brian Kuh with another ROK video, bringing you some real world examples of the latest meta garrison in Rise of Kingdoms, Gorgo-Tokugawa with the Pincer Formation. We are going to look at 4 separate flag defenses that we did in a Kingsland war last week. This is between several very strong A kingdoms. There was heavy open field fighting all around these flags, and we're really going to show you what Gorgo-Tokugawa can do. And here is a situation where Gorgo-Tokugawa is in a bit of trouble. Our field was down south attacking an enemy arrow tower, and so our opponent's water camp in red, they attacked our arrow tower here at marker 13. They have an Attila Subutai rally hitting this Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison. They do swarm the flag right around now, and we are having trouble reinforcing this flag because the cities are relatively far away from the flag to fill this thing up. You can see some marches are starting to swarm the flag now. Now, my marches were elsewhere on the map. We are attacking this other flag, but what is happening is that the enemy is in fact burning our arrow tower with that Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison inside of it. And let me go ahead and show you the battle report for that defense. Here is the report on that flag. You can see our reinforcements are not very good, not a lot of rains getting into the flag. And here is how the Gorgo-Tokugawa does. Very solid victory for overall deads, very solid victory for kill points as well. You can see that against the rally, this garrison does extremely well. A 50% better trade from a power perspective and 230k more deads for the garrison. Once you filter out the rally results here, the rest of the trade is basically delta neutral to slightly delta negative for the garrison. And we can go in and look at some of the swarming here. Rave Maverick was a top 5 kill point player in this KvK, and this is what he did against this garrison. He started attacking it when it was down to 1.1 million troops, got a positive trade with the Nevsky Belisarius, a very positive trade with Zuge Herman here, and one of the trends we will see is that our archers do very well swarming the Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison. So again, susceptible to swarm in the right conditions, but still a very positive trade overall for this garrison. And I can also show you the equipment and armaments on the garrison. This is what the garrison was rocking. It was sleighs from DVL Kingdom 1900 in this garrison, a near perfect set on the equipment, although not a KvK helmet, and a few non-tier 5 awakened pieces of equipment, but very good gear set here. As far as the armaments go, it's a 2-piece special inscription set for Pincer. Sleighs is missing a couple of special inscriptions here. On the next report, we will show you someone with 4 special inscriptions. And here we go with that second flag defense. This is going to be I Eat Calves' Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison. I Eat Calves has been featured in some of my videos before, getting some really good trades as a infantry rally. Here he is on the garrison side, and he is going up against a Scipio Tariq rally with the hollow square formation. May not be the optimal formation in this situation, but Scipio Tariq is a very good damage dealing, slightly glass cannon type of rally. When you can protect the rally and keep it from getting swarmed, you can see a few blue marches underneath this rally. I do think this rally was getting swarmed a little bit, but for the most part, our ball is being kept away from this flag defense. The enemy is getting a clean run at it, and they are also swarming this flag very heavily. One of the things you want to do with your field, if you can get close, is to attack the swarmers. That heavily punishes the swarmers. We could not really get close to this rally, and we can also only reinforce it from a single city north of the flag. So this is, again, a bad situation for a Gorgo-Tokugawa Pincer Formation garrison. I want to show you what Gorgo-Toku does when it is heavily pressured, when it is a good situation for the offense. How does this new meta garrison perform? And we're going to get a very good look at it in this report. Tokugawa is a bit of a jack-of-all-trades garrison commander. He does smite damage on his active skill, and he does mighty shielding on 2 separate skills. But what is really happening with this garrison is that it is the Gorgo and the Pincer Formation that are empowering the smite damage on Tokugawa's active skill. Gorgo's active skill gives a normal damage buff for the next 3 seconds, which applies to Tokugawa's active skill. She gives other normal damage buffs, or has the chance to give other normal damage buffs. And then the Pincer Formation is also giving you a bunch of smite damage. And so when you combine those two, Tokugawa's active skill is doing massive damage, even though it is only a 2400 damage factor active skill. They do get the burn here on this flag. And let's once again look at the report and look at how this Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison did. So look at this. Better reinforcements here, better equipment and armaments on this garrison, but the trade ultimately is just about the same. From a kill points perspective, we only do about 10% better than the opponents. We take slightly fewer deads as the defense. Once again, a very, very good trade against the rally itself. Almost 2-to-1 on deads and better than 50% on kill points. The kill point delta here is about 6 million troops, and yet the kill point delta for the overall fight is only 4 million KP. So you can tell that the swarming did a lot better this time. I think the reason this report was better for the offense is because there was a lot more swarming taking place. Let's look at Rave Maverick again. Rave started swarming much earlier on when the garrison was still at full troop capacity. The Nevsky Belisarius gets an even trade. The Zuge Hermann, once again, a 2-to-1 trade for Zuge Hermann against this garrison. Neutral for the cavalry again. This other player's Zuge Hermann also got a 2-to-1 trade. Infantry gets a positive trade. And then again, the Asher Philip does very well against the Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison. But overall, as much as that was a very bad situation for us, it still traded positively. Gorgo-Tokugawa with Pincer against Heavy Swarm, it still traded positively. Here is the equipment on that Gorgo garrison. Fully Tier 5 Awakened set here. The KvK weapon and the KvK helm. This is an upgrade from the I8 Cavs equipment set I showed you in a video a few months ago. And then here's the bigger upgrade, is that Cavs has done a full conversion of his Arch Formation set to Pincer Formation, and he does have 4 special inscriptions here, along with a nice Spirited to add on to that. If we just quickly go through just the base bonus here, you got 5% boost to smite damage there. You've got 5% boost to combo attack resistance there, and resistance to smite damage. Thundering gives you a flat 10% boost to smite damage dealt, and then Toppler gives you another 5%, so it's 20% bonus smite damage just on the front end of these special inscriptions. And also Toppler, which is maybe the best of the 4 inscriptions, it will give 20% increased smite damage to the target for the next 3 seconds whenever this troop deals smite damage. So Gorgo deals the smite damage, Toppler then procs, and Tokugawa gets an added 20% increased smite damage on his active skill to go along with all of the other boosts to Tokugawa's smite damage that is happening. Pincer is just an absolutely amazing formation, maybe the most overpowered aspect of Rise of Kingdoms at the moment, and it pairs very well with Gorgo, who has been the queen of garrisons for quite a while now. Let's rotate to a later part in the same day, same zone, slightly different part of the map. Water built a flag that we tried to destroy while it was under construction. They swarmed down our rally and we canceled the swarm. This forced us to fall back and it allowed Water Camp to turn the open field fight in their direction. We have a shield on the flag on the left, and so they will rotate over to the right side here at marker number 4 and attempt to rally that flag. What I'm doing here is I'm putting up an additional marker that is trying to remind people that they need to bring infantry reinforcements to this area. This was also something that we were emphasizing on voice chat. Hey, everybody, when you have a spare moment, log on to your farms, bring some marches to these key flags to have them ready ahead of time. This is not something you can do in the moment, getting reinforcements halfway across this zone. The enemy did attack us very quickly at this flag, and that's why my marker was a little bit late. What we have here, though, is we have an Attila Martel rally. They didn't want to get swarmed at this location. We did have one of our players swarming, and it was painful to swarm this rally, but this is one of the things about Gorgo-Tokugawa is that you have to have all the conditions be correct to get a good trade against the Gorgo-Tokugawa. In this case, the condition they had wrong was that the rally was just very inferior. And so we were ready with some reinforcements in this area. They did heavily swarm this flag right at this moment. We're not able to get there. This looks like another bad situation for the Gorgo-Tokugawa, but you're about to see a very good report from our perspective because of the fact that we reinforced this very well and we were going up against an inferior rally, and we loved this one.
Rally. Ooh, that was a very good trade.
Yeah, because you want four.
Nice one. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. That's going to slow him down a little bit.
Did we keep the flag? Sorry, I'm busy switching.
Yeah, number 4.
Yeah, share that one in Alliance chat. That one's a good one.
That sounds like amazing. You see, this is why troop farms are so important, people. Get with a plan.
You can see that this was a nice morale boost for our alliance. This is the kind of thing that is honestly a proof of concept for the way that we play, where we do try to emphasize playing good defense, and we do emphasize on voice chat, hey, spend some time bringing marches to this area and get ready to reinforce things. And this is just going to be a ton of reinforcements from 1770 filling this thing up. And let's just take a look at it real quick. Obviously, a massively positive trade for our side here. Most of it coming from the trade with this very inferior rally, but also trading positively against the swarms in this case. Rave Maverick here, breaking even with his Asher Philip. The Nevsky Belisarius trading negatively this time. The first time we've seen it trade negatively against this garrison. Very bad trade for this Wallace Guan here. Maybe not the best combo. BQ Lucci also taking a very bad trade. Interesting that perhaps BQ Lucci is not going to be a great swarming march. And then this Hermann Zug gets a negative trade. But here we have Rave's Zuge Herman, and once again, a very positive trade, even in these conditions, for the Zuge Herman. You do wonder if maybe there's a strategy where you tell people to just swarm with their archer marches, keep their archer marches at full health, and be ready to swarm when the conditions are right. Maybe that's the best way to approach this Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison that is admittedly vulnerable to swarming. But if you don't swarm correctly or you don't do everything right, you are going to get hardcore punished with a report like this one right here. Now let's go into the biggest fight of them all. If you have stuck around this long in the video, then I will give you the biggest fight and the biggest report coming up right here. Do throw a like on this video if you're enjoying this content. That is a great way to support my channel and to support me making more highly edited videos like this one. They do take a long time, so I would appreciate the likes and the subscribes on this video. But this is the situation. The enemy attacked this same flag again. They failed the first time. They're going to try their absolute hardest to get the burn this time. We have I-8 Cavs in the garrison again. It is an Attila Subutai rally this time. And we have had a little bit of time to get our marches, our reinforcing marches near this. We may have been a little bit unprepared in terms of getting swarming marches around the city so we could all swarm together. I don't think there was a counter rally launched on this either. I think that was one thing that both our voice chat and the DVL voice chat may have forgotten or neglected, is putting a counter rally on this thing. That might have turned things more in our favor because this one did go for a very long time. It ends up getting very, very hectic because they are heavily swarming our flag, bringing our reinforcements down quickly. We are also trying to swarm their rally, and the rally really didn't stay full. We had a player on voice who was very close to this flag, and he was scouting the rally. It wasn't full. It would be at 1.5 million troops sometimes, 1.1 million troops sometimes. There's my scout on it, and it's at about 1.6 million. I'm going to try to get a few marches nearby to swarm this rally down. I don't have a ton of success doing it. The other thing here, of course, is that as you try to reinforce this flag, there is so much AoE damage being done by the enemy that they are going to melt DVL marches that go into this flag. Now, what we have done in this zone in 770 is we built our territory behind DVL's territory, so all of our farms are sitting on HDS territory and they can walk here. Those farms are not getting hit by AoE, and so it's going to be a lot easier for those farms to reinforce here. But you can tell that this fight is heavily popping off. You can even see in the left corner of the screen, sometimes the Gajamata siege marches, you'll see their portraits pop up because they're hitting any march that jumps out of any of these cities to try and swarm. I'm doing a little bit of swarming, maybe getting 5 or 6 turns of damage off from this Huo before I get melted as well. And I'm going to just settle for trying to fill this garrison with a couple of my infantry marches that I've got here out in the field. I'm also on my phone as this is happening, trying to fill with one of my farms. So this is a very hectic fight here. Gorgo-Tokugawa Pincer Garrison. This is I-8 Cavs' garrison against a Attila Subutai rally. And again, the question here is, what can this Pincer Formation garrison do against very heavy swarm, very heavy open field from the enemy? And listen, spoiler alert, it's going to be a very good report for us. And I think that what people have to start thinking about here is, what is the implications of this Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison being the dominant march in the game? We have not really been in a garrison meta for a while now with the new maps like Orleans, with Surging Strike, and with some pretty good rallies like Subutai and Scipio Emilianus and artifact rallies. Offenses have had the ability to rip through basically all garrisons. You can still rip through a Gorgo-Tokugawa, but the numbers get pretty steep pretty fast here. And, you know, modern Rise of Kingdoms alliances, they don't really have a defensive first mentality. They don't really lean into reinforcing buildings with your farms, reinforcing buildings with your mains. It's much more of an open field mentality these days. And I do wonder what is going to happen if Gorgo-Tokugawa remains dominant through the next Archer cycle. That's a big question, of course. But for now, we're in a situation where I think it is pretty tough to burn a lot of flags without depleting your own army more than you deplete the defense's army. And there it goes. The flag does go down. And let's just take a look at this report. So here we go. Almost 1 million more deads on the enemy side here. Another very, very good trade against the Attila Subutai rally. And then pretty much a break-even situation against the swarming. The other thing you want to keep in mind here is that most of the deads for the enemy, because they are swarming so heavily, these are mainly going to be deads on their main accounts, on their strongest accounts, whereas a lot of our reinforcements are going to be from farms where it's simply not anywhere near as painful to take deads on a farm as it is on a main. Look at the size of this swarm. Absolutely massive swarm here. Good reinforcements until the swarming really started in earnest, but you can see that we are at least able to keep the reinforcements going for a bit here, where, you know, the rally continued to survive. It didn't just crash to zero immediately, but a very massive, massive swarm here. Let's take a look at Rave Maverick again, picking things up when the garrison is starting to struggle a little bit to stay full. And then, of course, Rave Maverick's pressure is going to make it even harder for us to keep this garrison full. We didn't keep it full. You saw that above. But a positive trade with the archers and a break-even trade with the Arthur William cavalry, break-even trade with the Ragnar Scipio. And then here is another player, Knight, just taking some AoE damage. This was another factor, I guess, in this report, is that this rally must have come from 63DS, and so they did take some AoE underneath this flag. That certainly has to be considered as part of this trade as well. Here's another Asher Philip getting a slightly positive trade against a declining garrison. So, you know, this is a pretty crazy report, and they're taking almost 1 million more deads than we are, and it doesn't seem like a big deal in isolation, but how long can a team actually attack you and take 1 million more deads every single time they burn you? That means that on a given flag, they might be taking 3 or 4 million more deads than you take just to burn your flag. At that point, you just can't burn that many flags until you're just fully depleted as an army. So what conclusions can we draw from these results going forward? I'm very curious to hear what you all have to say. Please leave your comments in terms of what you think about this Gorgo-Tokugawa garrison. My feeling is that for most kingdoms, for all but the biggest of imperiums, you should be having the majority of your top infantry garrisons switching to Pincer and planning to run Gorgo-Tokugawa Pincer garrisons. I do think that in the biggest imperiums, you're going to want at least half of your infantry garrisons to be arch formation, because swarming is just so important in those big imperiums, and most big imperiums have at least some whales who can swarm every single flag, and they have enough power that it's not going to hurt them that if they take, 15 million deads in a single KvK. So, but for everybody else, just go to Pincer. Just switch to Pincer. We've got 4 infantry garrisons in our kingdom. I have told 3 of them to go Pincer. We're going to leave 1 at Arch, since there might be some situations where that one's better. But Pincer is good in so many situations. It's good as a rally. It's good one-on-one versus is good one-on-one as a garrison. It's excellent in passes because passes cannot be swarmed. It's excellent in forts because forts are harder to swarm. I showed you in this video, I showed you very tough conditions for a Gorgo-Tokugawa. I showed you the kind of template that teams will use to actually beat this garrison, to burn this garrison out. But in so many kingdoms, in Rise of Kingdoms, the fighting is smaller and you can just run Pincer and do just fine. I think if anything, even though I showed you burns in 3 out of the 4 reports that I showed you today. I didn't show you all the reports where we just had a ho-hum easy defense with an amazing trade. I showed you the tough ones. And the fact that this garrison traded as well as it did, it shows how overpowered this garrison is, right? So this, if you made it this far in the video, then obviously you care about this subject. But I think kingdoms out there really need to prepare immediately for the reality as it exists today, which is that Gorgo-Tokugawa is very, very strong with Pincer Formation, and it's beatable, so maybe it's not broken. I'm not going to say this garrison is broken, but it is so strong that you have to make it a central part of your strategy, and if you're planning to be on the offense in a zone, you have to be wary of how dangerous the defense can be. We are potentially shifting to a new time period in Rise of Kingdoms where maybe we're back to a garrison meta. There's been many years in this game where we did have a garrison meta, and if we're going back there, it's going to be equal parts frustrating and opportunity filled, because if you can play very good defense and you have these garrisons, you can really punch above your weight. I do hope everybody enjoyed this video. I've asked you to leave a like on it once, but now we're another 15 minutes past that first reminder, so do throw a like on the video on the way out. That's going to be it for me today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the flip side.